For the kingdom of heaven is like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to him his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. Yo, I've been recording independent artists for a very long time. Not very long. That's cap. It feels very long. It's probably been since 2021-ish. So consistently a good amount of people, and I've noticed a couple of things, right? Like I've seen like people come into the studio that have never recorded music before, and people that have come into the studio that have an entire like catalog of music. And there are kind of like stages that seem at least evident to me when it comes to like independent artists. Like stage 1 is usually like them building up their confidence. They've got a lot of music, or not even a lot. They have like music, but a lot of it is sitting on their hard drive. Maybe it's like a voice note on their phone. Stage 2 is they're still building confidence, but they're releasing music. Where in stage 1, they probably weren't releasing anything at all. Stage 2, they're finally like kind of putting things out. And then final stage, at least in this analogy, I don't think there's really a final stage. You could kind of scale it up. But stage 3, they get to a point where they've been releasing consistently. They've probably built a team. They probably have systems in place. They're really getting into what it looks like to get a return on their investment, on their time, on their music, on their energy, the whole 9. And I've seen this consistently. And I've worked with artists that have been in that stage 1 section. And the jump from stage 1 to stage 3 is a difficult jump. Like, it comes with work. It comes with vulnerability. Usually you're fragile before you get to stage 3. Like, things that people say about your music probably hits you a little bit harder than it does in stage 3. But I think that there are amazing, not just artists, but people that have something that they're supposed to be doing, and they get stuck in stage 1 forever. For way too long. So I don't know if you are familiar with the parable of the talents, but essentially this is like Matthew chapter 25. And Jesus is kind of like talking about the kingdom of heaven. And that conversation in and of itself can be like a whole nother video, fam. Like, we can like dive into like what that really is. But in a nutshell, like, if you think of a kingdom, it is a space that is ran by a king. It's a domain that belongs to a king, and that king usually has citizens, people that respect and obey that king's rule. And Jesus is talking about the kingdom of heaven is like this. The kingdom of heaven is kind of like a man that went on a journey, and he called his servants and he entrusted to them property. Hey, I'm going away. Sound kind of familiar. I'm going away. I'm about to go somewhere. I'm not here with you. I'm going to entrust to you these things. And not only property, his property, he gave him talents. Maybe the property was the talents, right? He gave him talent. He gave him money. To one dude, based on his abilities, he said, hey, I know you. You're good. I'm going to give you 5 of them. To another, he gave 2 talents. And then to the final dude, he gave 1 talent. And there's a interesting, like, I guess, thing that happens. Like, this internal thing. Like, that, I guess, you kind of see it without it having to be stated. So, like, the master goes, he gives him the talents. And verse 14, it says, he who had received 5 talents went at once and traded them. Like, he's like stage 3. He is like, yo, I'm not wasting any time. I'm out. Like, it's interesting that, like, that verse says that he went at once. Like, he got the 5 talents and he was like, bruh, say less. Like, I already understand the assignment. I'm going. And he made 5 more talents. The one that had 2 talents, it doesn't say how quickly he reacted, but ended up making 2 more talents. But the one that received 1 talent, it says that he went and dug it in the ground and hid his master's money. So he took it, grabbed a shovel, dug, buried that bad boy, covered it up, and left it in the ground. Essentially, in this parable, like, the master comes back. And in verse 20, it says, and when the master comes back, like, After some time, the master of those servants came and settled the accounts with them. And he who had received 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 more talents, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here, I have 5 more for you. His master said to him, Well done, you faithful servant. You have been faithful over little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he who also had 2 talents came forward, saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here, I've made 2 more talents. His master said to him, Well done, you faithful servant. You have been faithful over little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of the master. But the guy that had only 1 talent came forward, saying, Master, I knew that you are a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, gathering where you did not scatter seed. So I was afraid, and I went and I hid the talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours. My dude was afraid, was scared. He says, I was afraid, so I went and I hid what you gave me. And if you know the parable, like, it goes on to say that the master reprimands this servant, says, you should have at least, at the very least, done the bare minimum and taken that 1 talent and put it in the bank, so that way when I came back, it could have accrued some type of interest. And what ends up happening in this is the master ends up taking the talent away from the servant that had 1 and gives it to the servant that has, I guess right now, 10, because he had 5 and then got 5 more. So servant with 5 was sitting with a good amount. I like to, I don't know, like, I look at the servant that got the 1 talent, and part of me feels bad for him because I feel like he's similar to indie artists that are stuck in that stage 1, where in this parable that Jesus is saying, that is like the kingdom of heaven looks like this, like what this parable looks like. In this parable, this guy was given something, was gifted something, similar to how, like, I feel like songs are things that we're gifted with. And you'll hear it like a ton of times. Like sometimes when I watch interviews, I'll hear Rick Rubin talk about the fact that, like, the creative process feels like the person receiving it is just a conduit tapping into, like, the universe. You'll hear a lot of people say, like, hey, I was, like, this just, like, flowed out of me. Like, I really believe that music is something that is given. It's a gift for a lot of people, right? And it's one of those gifts that has potential when you're vulnerable, but takes time to cultivate and grow. Or it could take time. Like, some music could spring up quickly, and success in that springs up quickly. And a lot of times, those things that spring up quickly end up fading just as quickly as they sprung up. Not all the time, but sometimes. A lot of times. But sometimes it takes a while to, like, really, like, grow this thing. And what's interesting is that it feels like the guy that was burying his talent, burying the money, it feels like he was just insecure. And how many times do we, like, and I'm just really translating all of this to the things that I'm privy to, because I really feel like a lot of times, like, the Bible shows us principles that are multifaceted and can be applied to a lot of places. How many times are we afraid to do the thing that God is asking us to do? How many times have we recorded the song, maybe dug it back up out of the ground and, like, looked at it and was like, man, that's a shiny song. Or maybe it's not shiny. Maybe it's like, man, like, I wish this was better, and got afraid and just kind of buried it again. Rather than quickly at once, like the dude with the 5 talents that probably was more like a stage 3 artist. Ran and knew what to do with this. Like, he knew exactly what to do. He's already been through, like, the stages. Like, hey, I'm gonna move quickly. Or the guy with 2 talent. Like, we don't really talk about him a whole lot, but, like, he got his 2, and I don't know how long it took for him to actually do what he was doing, but he did it before the master came back. But this video really is to you guys that are at stage 1. You guys that feel kind of afraid. Don't let your music stay buried in the grounds of your hard drive. If it's buried there, like, dig that bad boy up, take it out, and at least distribute it, right? Like, at the very least, like, put it out there, because I believe that music is a gift. Like, I believe that it is It is a gift of value, and it's worth investing. It's worth putting out. So I don't know who needed to hear that today, but yeah.